Hello everybody. This video is going to be my top 10 figures that would be hardest to replace if I were to sell them off. And cost doesn't really have anything to do with it. You know, some of the figures that are very expensive, there's plenty of them out there. These are ones, you know, certain variants that are just hard to come across. Not necessarily expensive one. I have a Gamorrean guard variant that I have a really hard time finding them. And so sometimes it's because other collectors aren't even aware, or sellers aren't aware of what kind of variant it is, so it's not even advertised. So it's more based on scarcity than it is how expensive a figure is. So I got around 500 figures in here. I'm going to take out the 10 that would be the hardest to replace if I were to sell them off. So we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so number 10, we're going to start off with my PBP Hammerhead with his eyes shifted to the right. The default is eyes shifted to the left. And this is a PBP. I'll show you you can see the scar where the country of origin would be underneath the date stamp there. And most of them, like I said, there was supposed to be eyes shifted to his left. And this one is to the right. You can find them occasionally. They don't come up a lot on eBay or the Facebook groups, but occasionally they do. And I don't know, you could pay easily $100 for them, especially if it's in good shape like this one is. But it's not easy to come across, and it's super cool. It's one that a lot of Hammerhead collectors don't have. And I have the other, I'm going to bring, this is a PBP also, so these are both made in Spain. And you can see the one on your left with his eyes shifted to his left. That's the way it's supposed to be. So the factories, you can find Hammerhead eyes in all kinds of different directions, especially in the Kenner ones. But my PBPs, I have them in other videos, but I also have a Hammerhead with the eyes forward and down and one with the eyes forward and up. They can all be tricky to find, but definitely this guy right here, eyes shifted to his right, that's a tough one to replace. So he made number 10 on my list. All right, so number 9 on my list of the toughest figures to replace would be my POC C-3PO. And you can find POC C-3POs out there. They're not too hard to find, and they're not overly expensive. This one, though, would be a little hard to replace just because of all the melt marks and factory mistakes it has. When POC was the company in Spain that produced the figures for the Spanish market, and in the early days they didn't inject the mold, they didn't make the plastic there in Spain. They imported parts from the Asian factories, the same parts Kenner used, and they assembled them and painted them in Spain, and their assembly process for sonic welding wasn't very good, and it left melt marks all over the figures sometimes. And this one's just loaded with them. I'll bring you up, you can see that whole right foot is just all melted, and big spots there all over his shoulders. You can see up here. So he's got a lot of just sloppy factory work on him, really melted. And you know, if you're a kid in Spain in the early 80s, late 70s, and you got this figure, you probably feel kind of ripped off because quality control wasn't very good. But for a collector nowadays, we love this kind of stuff. So I'm a big fan of the melt marks and the story behind it. But so you can find other POC C-3POs. Are you going to find one with this many melt marks? That might make him kind of hard to replace. So that put him in on number 9 on my list. All right, so number 8 on the list, and that was kind of a tough one because from here on, they're all pretty tough to replace, but this is the Tolltoys tri-logo Leia Bespin, and they call this one the geisha face or the pale face, and you can see why that beautiful porcelain plastic they use on the face. The hands are nice and bright. These all come with the painted neck and kind of the sideburns a little bit there. This one, it's no country of origin. I believe it was, I want to say Smile Factory, but it wasn't made in the US. It was only released in Europe. on Tri-Logo cards. Would have been produced by Palette Toy, made in somewhere in Asia. Palette Toy didn't make any figures their own, they imported them, but this one wasn't released in the US. You don't see it on eBay very often at all. Occasionally you'll see it on Facebook groups, but I bought this one probably 10 years ago. I paid $37 for it. I still remember that. And nowadays they go for, I don't know, in the $200 to $250 range when you see them, and it might even go for more. This thing's in great shape, but you don't see them often. It would definitely be hard for me to replace this one if I were to sell it. As of right now, it's not for sale, but it's hard enough to find, so it made number 8 on the list. This is the PBP Geisha Face Bespin Leia. Okay, so number 7 on the list. This is the first of 3 appearances that Farm Boy Luke makes in this video. This is the dark brown hair from the Unitoy factory, and you'll see a lot of shades of brown hair for these Lukes, but they're all different shades of lighter brown hair. I have another one. I'll put this one in there too, so you can kind of see the difference here. The one on the left is a darker shade of the little bit lighter brown, but the dark brown ones are like this. Most of them have that pale face that I've seen, but a much darker brown, solid brown too. This one, it's got a little bit of a tan in there too, but this one here is just total dark brown. Hard to find. I bought it in a lot from a seller in overseas, in Thailand, and it came in a lot, where I got a few really hard to find figures. A few of them are on this list, including this one. So that is the dark brown hair Luke, not to be confused with the darker shade of the lighter brown hair that Unitoy also made. So Farm Boy Luke, you'll be seeing a couple more Farm Boy Lukes in this video, but that's an awesome one. You don't see them very often. And when you do, they go for a lot of money. And this one here is in just beautiful condition. Turn it around for you. And you can kind of see the color differences there too. So really nice. Both of them from the same factory. Just, I don't know, somebody decided to give them different shades of brown hair. So dark brown hair Farm Boy Luke. All right, number 6 on the list. We're going to stick with Farm Boy Luke. And you can see that one is also not a yellow hair Luke. It's an orangish brown, rusty brown color. There is an orange hair Luke where the orange color is a little more bold than this, just a more orange look. But compared to, I'm going to put this guy in again. That's a more normal brown hair Luke on the left. The orangish brown one on your right, and he also has that pale face. You'd never see these. I've seen a few people on Facebook share pictures of them, but you never see them come up for sale anymore on eBay. And I never really see people selling them on Facebook either. I have seen some collectors post pictures of theirs, and they look just like this one. The general consensus amongst other Farm Boy Luke collectors was that it's not an orange, a true orange hair. It's a variation on the brown hair. A lot of orange pigment to it for sure. But with that, the pale face, this one's in really nice condition. Again, this is the Unitoy factory. And really tough to find this one. I don't even know what they sell for, but for people who like Farm Boy Luke and the different color hairs, it's a must-have, but not easy to find. I very seldomly see these for sale. So this one made it to the list in number 6. So that's the orange brown hair Farm Boy Luke. Okay, so cracking into the top 5 here. Number 5 on the list is another Farm Boy Luke. This is the Popey version. Popey was the company in Japan that had the license to produce the figures for the Japanese market during the Empire Strikes Back era. Takara had the license for the Star Wars era, and you'll be seeing one of those figures too. And Sakuda had the license to make or produce the figures for the Return of the Jedi era. Sakuda just took regular carded Kenner figures and put their own sticker on. PBP took regular bagged Kenner figures and put them in these really awesome boxes. Turn this around for you. Like I said, the Luke is not sealed, but that is the bag that it came in. And there you go. This is just one of my all-time favorite Star Wars figures in my whole collection. Here is, I'm going to show you the little, these are the little catalogs that came with it. And I just put these in this little plastic sleeve. This one, you don't see these often at all. When you do, they're asking crazy money for them. Sometimes you'll see a graded one and they'll be asking $5,000–6,000 for it. With these though, it would go for more money if it was still sealed in the bag, but you very rarely see them come up for sale. I don't even know if there are any on eBay right now. But if I were to sell this, I'd do really well on it, but it would be super hard if I wanted to replace it someday. So this one made number 5 on the list, and boy, the top 5, probably any one of them could have been number 1. So Farm Boy Luke from PBP, Japan. I love that that box. Otherwise, it's just a regular Kenner figure, but the box is what makes it cool. All right, so number 4 on the list of figures that would be the hardest to replace is a really tough one to find, and this is a Taiwan Darth Vader. Believed to be Universal Manufacturers. That was the company or the factory in Taiwan that made these figures. The general consensus is that there are some that say made in Taiwan that were released in the USA, and then there are some that just say Taiwan. And the general consensus is that the ones that just say Taiwan were produced in Taiwan by the Tolltoys company in Australia, who had the license to release the figures in Australia. According to Variant Villain, there were 2 figures that were actually produced by Tolltoys. One of them is Darth Vader, one of them is a Jawa. But this Darth Vader, I'm gonna show you real quick what we mean. There you can see, it just says Taiwan, where the other ones say made in Taiwan, the ones that were released in the US. What you'll notice here, that left cheek tube on the right of your screen is really a lot more pronounced than it is in the Kenner. It's a different sculpt, and very, very hard to find. And when you do, they go for, you know, this lightsaber, it's the right lightsaber, it's missing the tip. They go for a lot of money though. So if you ever get a chance to get a Vader that just says Taiwan, they're very hard to come by. Made in Taiwan ones were released in the US, and they're not expensive and they're easy to find. But one that just says Taiwan is really tough to find. And there are 2 variations of this one. There are 2 completely different sculpts, head sculpts and that, and I happen to have both. So probably gives you a hint at what the next figure is going to be on the list. But this one's number 4, Tolltoys Taiwan Darth Vader. All right, so number 3 on the list is another Tolltoys Taiwan Darth Vader, but this one is a different sculpt, and I'm going to bring them both. I'm going to bring this guy back in, and you can see the left cheek tube on him. It's pronounced compared to the Kenner ones, but look at this guy. I mean, it's just, let me turn him a little bit. His cheek is really bulbous, that left side. Totally different head mold for these 2 guys. Let me get them back next to each other. So totally different molds. You can see even the one on the left, his face is a little bit flatter. The one on the right, the nose and mouth area protrude a little bit more. Super cool figures. Both of them are legit sabers. They're the Tolltoys sabers that came with these. Both of them missing the tip. But this guy made number 3 on the list because he's even harder to find, I think, with the messed up cheek there. They are out there, but you don't see them too often. You don't see them for sale very often on Facebook or eBay. The one on the right I bought from somebody who, you know, we both knew what it was. The one on the left came in the same lot as that dark brown hair Luke that you saw in a video earlier. I bought these from somebody in Thailand, and I didn't know it was a Taiwan Vader until I got it, and so I got an awesome deal on that. But they're hard to find, they're not cheap, and that's why this guy made number 4 on the list, this guy made number 3 on the list. Again, Tolltoys Australia, Taiwan only, Darth Vader. All right, so number 2 on the list could have easily been number 1. This is one of the toughest figures to find. This is the Takara C-3PO, and it's a completely different head sculpt and body sculpt than any of the other ones that were made by Kenner for any of the other markets. This one has a completely different head. I'm going to put the PAC one next to it. Again, now the PAC one was made in Spain, but the plastic was made in the same factories as the Kenner one. So you can see that's a normal C-3PO face. That's the Japanese one. Completely, let me get a little closer. Completely different sculpts there. There you see them. So the Japanese one on the right, made in Japan for the Japanese market, and they just made their own mold for it. Another thing that's super cool, now C-3PO, they all say GMFGI 1977, but not this one. You can see in there, it says 1978 and Japan, which is super cool. You know, the rest of them just say Hong Kong or wherever. And they're all 1977. This one's 1978 Japan. Another difference is Kenner and PAC used a rivet in his back, and Takara used a Phillips screw. Lily Letty used a flathead screw in theirs. So that's a difference too. But the biggest thing, and this one's known as the Takara alternate head sculpt C-3PO, and it's one that a lot of collectors want. It's one that I've wanted for a long time. Finally got it. Little mix up with it in the mail. Somewhere along the line it got the wrong zip code put on it. So once it reached the Chicago area, it just got hot potato passed around from one distribution center to the other by USPS until I finally called them and got it straightened out, and they got the right zip code on there and sent it to me. But so it got passed around for about almost a month. But one of my favorite figures of all time, super hard to find. I don't think there are any on eBay right now. And when they are, they're crazy money. I got an amazing deal on this one. So it's in near mint condition. So that makes number 2 on the list. There it is again. You get to see the 2 different faces. But that's the Japanese Takara C-3PO 1978, number 2 on the list. All right, so we've reached number 1 on my list of the top 10 hardest to replace figures if I were to sell them off. And this one probably surprises some people because it's just a Gamorrean guard. This is from the Smile Factory, No Country of Origin, which that's what the back is. So it's got the LFL 1983 and nothing else. And what makes this one so scarce is the plastic that it's made of. Now, I brought in, here's another Smile, No Country of Origin. This is more like what a lot of them look like. Here's another one with darker skin, but as far as the lighter green skin ones look, the one on the left that made the list, that one's a really hard plastic. It has a different, I don't know if you can hear it, different sound, especially if I'm just holding it in my hand. Very different sound when you tap on it. It weighs about a gram more than the other Smile No Country of Origin Gamorrean guards, and it's got that apple green, really bold green color to it compared to the others. And especially when I take pictures with the flash. But there you can see the bold green to the one on the left. It's in near mint condition. I've been searching for years, and the reason to get another one, I eventually did. I'm going to put it up here. So here's another one, except for the right arm. The right arm is is the same plastic as this guy. But the left arm, the legs, the torso, the head are all that hard, brittle plastic and that apple green look. And you can see the one on the left is still a little bit more green, but they both weigh an ounce heavier than the other ones do. This one's slightly lighter, probably because of the right arm and the softer plastic, but this is the hard plastic apple green Gamorrean Guard, Smile No Country of Origin. I've had this one for probably 10 years. I just got lucky with it. I didn't even realize how different it was until I started buying more Gamorrean Guards. I just counted 49 Gamorrean Guards in my collection. And this is the only one that I have that's full. Everything on it is the hard torso, is the hard plastic. This one's got everything but the right arm. And on Variant Villain, they talk about Smile Factory later on producing some of the white figures in a hard plastic, and they call them the hard torso figures. And it was part of an attempt, I think, to make the white plastic brighter and maybe not fade as much. And it seems to me that that's what they did with this one too. It's a hard plastic, weighs a gram more. Like I said, it sounds completely different when I tap on it. Very hard to find. I've been looking. The reason it's number one on the list is because other collectors don't know about it and don't care. And it's hard, so nobody advertises it as, you know, this is the hard plastic one. Also, the pictures can be deceiving. You'll see some pictures on eBay and they have a good flash on there and it makes it look like it might be this apple green. I've bought a few that I thought was it, and it turns out they weren't. They're always going to weigh a full gram more than the others. And I do have videos on here where you can see all the differences and I show the weight. But this one made number one on my list. It's not an expensive figure at all. Chances are if you get one, you're paid just, you know, $15–20 like you would any other Gamorrean Guard. And nobody would know that they were selling or buying a hard to find variant. But it's incredibly hard to find, partly because nobody else knows about it or really cares. And so if it does get sold, it's not advertised as the hard torso. So you're just kind of hoping that you get lucky and find one. But there it is, number one on my list of the hardest to replace figures in my collection. If I were to sell this one off, you know, in all these years I found two. And like I said, this one, it has mixed parts. It's got a soft plastic arm and it's not quite as bright a green as this one too. So this one made number one on my list. It's one of my all-time favorite figures, and as I said, I'm a Gamorrean Guard guy anyway, and I have a lot of these. This is the toughest one I've had to find. So the hard plastic, apple green, Smile No Country of Origin Gamorrean Guard makes number one on my list of the top 10 most difficult to replace Star Wars figures in my collection. And hopefully I'll be adding some more to this list someday soon. So that's the Gamorrean Guard Smile No COO. All right, thanks for watching my video on the top 10 hardest to replace figures in my collection. I just wanted to show you real quick where they are. And so we'll start over here. I'll move the door. There are two Lukes that were in there. And over here is the apple green Gamorrean Guard and the other one with the mixed part. So that's three. And then the rest of them are down here in the international section. So we have Geisha Leia next to the Lily Letty one. There's the Popey Luke, and with all the Luke Skywalkers. And over here we have the Hammerhead. So right there is the Eyes Right Hammerhead. The rest of these are all PBP, made in Spain. And here we have the Takara 3PO, the Pak 3PO, and then here are the two Tolltoys Darth Vaders. So that's where they are in the collection. So thanks everybody for watching, and I'll be making another video soon. If you like this, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe and like this and watch some more of my videos. Thanks a lot.